On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Dhara Patel. She's the SVP of Engineering at Kinesso. We're going to be talking about something that fits her background. She comes from the platform world, and we're going to be talking about platform engineering and its relation to the visibility that it has internally, right? So from the standpoint of it's sometimes internal products, how do you establish ROI? How does the business see the value in that when it's not being directly shipped and not in the hands of a consumer? I think Dhara has some great perspectives on this, and I'm excited for her to share. Dhara, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So before we jump in, let's start off with the two top questions I always ask. One is, what does Kinesso do? If you give us an overview, and also the SVP of Engineering, what are the responsibilities that fall under your plate?
Sure, yeah. Let me start with the Kinesso first. So Kinesso provides the data-driven marketing solutions. And we are a technology arm of IPG, which is Interpublic Group, it's a leading global provider for all marketing solutions. And at Kinesso, we power the marketing systems through our proprietary suite of applications that integrates the advertising tech and marketing tech. And our biggest product is basically Marketing Intelligence Engine, which is our application framework that spans across all the applications in audience, planning, media activation. And at the end, it delivers insights and business outcomes for many leading global brands. And then my role at Kinesso, so as an SVP, so I lead a platform engineering organization, which actually has 4 different groups. So one of the first group that I have is what we call is an MI core platform, which is nothing but basically offering all of the shared services to all of our product applications, and both backend and front end services. But it's a shared usable services for better scalability and efficiency. The second group that I have is quantitative engineering. So this group consists of our quant engineers and software engineers, and they actually provide a math engine platform, which is a platform that allows all of our product applications to execute and run their data science and ML solutions in a more efficient and scalable way. So it's more targeted for the data science use cases. The third group that I have is innovation engineering, which is basically a group which focuses on productizing all of our R&D solutions. So at Kinesso, we do spend a lot of time and effort in doing research and development and build a lot of innovative solutions. What happens is that a lot of these solutions are built in labs and in more like in academic setting. So what innovation engineering does is that it takes all of the solutions, finds the fit for our product applications. So they actually apply all engineering best practices and then integrates into product applications so that this can be offered as capabilities to our customers. And then the last group that I have is Canvas, which is actually our external facing developer platform. And Canvas is our way of externalizing Kinesso's technology through the use of APIs. So that's basically all these 4 groups are part of platform engineering.
Awesome. You certainly have a lot on your plate. The topic for this episode is focused on more of the platform component. And I think it's some of the complexities maybe that we can kind of walk through is obviously shared services, the business value, the ROI. I think some of those things where, sometimes it's behind the scenes, but they're integral for the company to work, and how do those behind the scenes conversations happen? I guess maybe start at the highest level, right? And then we'll drill down and maybe talk about how your team is set up, especially on the shared services side, on the platform side, in terms of how they partner and work with other teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think our core services or our core platform team, I think at the heart of any platform engineering is basically it's all about building an ecosystem where you connects the producer applications and consumer applications. So a lot of the focus for core services or even our math engine platform is to actually talking to a lot of the product teams and understanding what are their needs and identifying what is the shared or common needs and how can we build that as a platform service that can actually bring efficiency and also more repeatability, right? That when we build the components as a part of platform, they becomes more repeatable, they becomes more flexible and reusable. So I think the major part of what the team does is to actually engaging with lots of cross-functional stakeholders. It's not just the product teams, also support and design, because there is a big front-end component which is part of that. And then once we identify the services, how do we make it more usable? And how do we make the user experience on our platform easy for all of the teams to onboard and adopt our platform, which is really critical in setting up these teams for success and driving, making sure that the services that we provide has a direct value to business and there is a direct impact to business and it's in alignment with the business goals that we have.
Awesome. And I guess when you're talking about, the alignment to business, that's a good natural place to go to. And I guess when you're looking at it from your perspective as the SVP, you're having the business discussion as well. How does the shared services get viewed when it's, discussions about, the ROI that can be measured, the business value that is being seen? Because obviously it's a little bit more complicated versus, when the app ships in the hand of the end user, potentially, let's say it's an app that does ship in the hand of the end user. It's very defined, the feedback you're getting versus shared services. Potentially, it might not be as clear cut. It might not be as evident.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's always a challenge of being in platform engineering and especially if you have platforms that are very much internal focused, right? Because sometimes there are external facing platforms which are easy to measure its impact because either there is a monetization aspect to that or it's just there is a direct impact. Especially for like internal platforms or shared services, I think one of the approach that I definitely take is to one, try to still adopt the product mindset, which includes three aspects of it, right? So one is that what is the value creation? Whatever the core capabilities that the platform is providing, what is the value add? What is the impact to business? And try to measure it somehow in a tangible way. I know it's hard and it's always difficult, but still try to apply certain metrics to that. The second thing is the user experience and the usability of the product, right? So that, and because it's platform, it's about adoption. And it's not exactly a product that's being consumed, but it's a platform that needs to be adopted by the developer community within your company so that they can have more efficiencies on their end. So either try to measure it from a cost standpoint, meaning are there any certain cost savings that can incur from infrastructure, maybe from efficiencies or things like that, or look at it from a time perspective, right? That there are definitely, is there a direct impact to the product lifecycle or the development lifecycle where because of shared services, there's a reduced development lifecycle on the product side. But basically the idea is to apply metrics, try to use tangible metrics and try to show the time to value or basically certain things like that. The other aspect and the third aspect to also include is to focus on operations and like monitoring automation, because automation definitely has a lot of value, though it's subtle, but it's easy to sometimes attach a business value to it because of automated certain man-hours are saved, sort of things. So I would say definitely using a metric-driven approach or data-driven approach to actually showcasing the value of platform. And at the end, the success of product also somehow depends on the success of platform. So just articulating that business value really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess especially, in your case, you're managing, multiple teams that are helping towards efficiency. When you're looking at the 4 different groups that you mentioned that you're managing, do you guys try to, obviously your overall goal is to bring the right visibility and the wins to the team. Are there certain metrics across those 4 teams that can be balanced, or is it a little bit too tricky to bring like efficiency across the multiple groups you manage?
Yeah, I think each of the group has its own metrics and its own set of measurements of success and failure. But I think there are certain things that are definitely common, which we do is one is that is an adoption rate of how, whether it's our shared services or Math Engine or Canvas, it's really important for us to see that how it's being adopted, because that tells us that whether we are successful in delivering value and are we catering to the needs of our developers. The second thing we also try to measure is our customer satisfaction. And though a lot of these are like, except Canvas, the other three are all internal, but it is important for us to basically capture the customer sentiment and collect. So we do our internal NPS and periodically run our customer surveys to actually collect the feedback. And also we host our stakeholder engagement community or stakeholder community monthly engagement meetings, where it's just being more proactive about ensuring that we are catering to the needs that they have and we are delivering the right things at the right time. So I think some of those things certainly, and also each of those has defined SLAs. So how frequently we are meeting SLAs. There are uptime metrics that we track across all of those. So it really varies on each of these different areas, but some of this side of metrics are sort of common across all areas.
Gotcha. You mentioned obviously you're trying to understand the areas that you guys are making impact and you're trying to evaluate those. When it comes to celebrating the wins within the team, obviously you guys know what you're shipping, and obviously you'd like to bring attention to your team for the contributions they make. How do you go about making sure that the team is getting the right visibility, is getting the right type of awareness that they should be getting?
Yeah, and I think oftentimes when it's all internal, it's really, really hard to do it. But it's all about doing the marketing and education and building the awareness. And it doesn't just stop after you have released it, but actually it starts even before you trying to build something. There are multiple ways we do it. One is to basically sending out the newsletters or hosting some of these stakeholder sessions. We're actually raising the awareness of what we are building, whether there has been a new release that has come up, what are the new features, things like that. And it just, it's in a way, when I think about it, it's similar to like how you do external product marketing, right? You send out PR releases, you send out announcements, something similar that we do for our internal customers and our internal audience, right? Where just we have also actually created some demo videos or training videos and just have uploaded those into our internal learning websites and things like that. Doing that product marketing for your internal platform is basically what you have to do. And both like after you do the releases or before you are planning to launch something, so that you just create then more curiosity about what's coming up. And yeah, it's been very well received so far.
Awesome. How much of your time is spent? Obviously, that's some legwork, right? As a SVP, you need to make sure you're bringing that right marketing message. How much of your day or overall week is spent, towards that type of activity?
I think it really depends. I think depends on like in which area there is a lot of momentum. I think Canvas naturally is an external facing, and there is also a lot of product management support there. So that one is pretty much handled on an ongoing basis. The other areas, I would say, it's more like seasonal, right? When there are major releases or there are major changes that we are making to our like foundational services, then I think that the time goes more into that. But at this point, all teams have a pretty good mindset around this. So it has become more like a habit that, we got to do this. It's like a part of our launch checklist, right? That we have to provide proper documentation, host office hours or host training videos, and just make it a part of release and make it a part of building that new feature or new functionalities. It really depends on which part of my areas is getting a lot of momentum.
Absolutely. I guess when you're looking at this role and bringing visibility, establishing the right culture for your team, I suppose when it comes to defining the roadmap and identifying stuff that you're trying to build in the future, who handles that on the team? Do you have devoted product managers that are designed for your internal platform components, or is it handled by outside people?
Yeah. So for my internal areas, we don't have a dedicated product management. For the external facing, the Canvas one naturally has product management. So right now, defining the roadmap, defining the priorities, and also getting the buy-ins from all the teams and the cross-functional stakeholders, it really falls on me and my team. So that's where basically, so we do have a regular cadence of every quarter, there is a roadmap reviews that happens across the entire engineering and product. And each of my product is basically also is treated as a product area where we go and present our roadmap to entire product and engineering. And typically what we try to do is when we are working on building our roadmap or trying to shape our milestones, we do collect a lot of feedback from our stakeholders. So that way it helps us doing prioritization, right? That is this the need of the hour versus can something like this wait for the next quarter or the quarter after? And that's typically basically how we try to do it. And that's where I feel like it's really because there is no dedicated product management for us, proactively doing customer engagement is really, really critical. And just having that stakeholder support and having that voice there, which really helps us shape our roadmap and our strategy and our trajectory for the upcoming year and beyond.
Absolutely. And I guess like if you were to forecast out, like is there a tipping point when you would go to the organization and say, you know what, the devoted PM would help me in these ways? Like what are some of the things that you would need to see to go maybe make the business case to have your own product manager for your team?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that has been part of our lot of discussions. And I think this is where I always fall back on. Just because it's an internal platform, it can actually benefit a lot by having a product mindset on that. And a lot of the principles that we apply for any product is all really applicable. I think the only differences here are one, that you need a very technical product manager. And the reason is because a lot of your customers are developers. And it's a very highly technical audience, which basically would really benefit by having a product manager who is super technical. And also, I think other than that, there is still the similar concepts, right? I think oftentimes when it's an internal platform, there is not a lot of focus on user experience. But when you try to show the value that why user experience is important, because the faster your developers can adopt the platform, the better you will be. And I think it's just basically building that case of or creating that use case of that how product mindset is applicable to platforms actually makes it easier to get the support for product management.
Yeah, I guess like when it comes to, you mentioned obviously, engaging with the customers, they're very technical. Obviously having a product manager who's focused more on that, it'd be helpful. But when you're kind of looking at your team and having to kind of do that engagement, like how much of their time is spent engaging with, let's say, the customers to understand some of the feedback from what they need to be able to take that to the product, other product people to help kind of build that roadmap?
Yeah, no, I think I would say, especially like the directors and VPs that I have in the team, I think most of their time goes into stakeholder engagement. And for both, right? I think looking back and as well as like looking forward. So I think understanding their pain points, understanding basically what's changing on their side, and also being a platform, there's always an interdependencies with all the product applications and when they are trying to build news. And also like at Kinesso, we have over 20 applications and product applications. So it's a big portfolio of products to support. And I think that's where I would certainly say that a lot of the leaders in my group spend significant amount of time engaging with customers, especially on the R&D side. It's not even more engaged than something like core services, which is a lot more established. So I would say that's definitely a big part of the leadership and the leaders in my group, while making sure that we do have like tech leads and those who run with the more technical and architecture side of the world. But I would say certainly it's a good blend and it's a good mix of both.
I mean, it's definitely interesting. You guys are certainly tackling, the role of the product manager across your directors and other, executives on your team. And obviously that feedback loop is imperative. And also the tricky part is, finding that product person that would be that technical to provide value versus having, let's say, the director who's responsible for that team is potentially, maybe more capable of getting that feedback to the team. I guess it's going to be a tricky balance no matter what you do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, right? That having a product support is really essential, but at the same time, we need the right product management to be in place, right? Otherwise, it's like the discussions are super technical and it goes into it. And it's not exactly same as product. I mean, though it can be treated as one, but there are always these differences of basically how platform operates versus how product operates and how customers deal with it and engage with it. So certainly, but yeah, we would love to have more product management support for this group.
Absolutely. No, I hear that a lot. It's interesting, your perspectives. Yeah, it's tricky, especially when it's internal facing shared services. It's got its own constraints, but obviously, super mission critical for the success of the product. And that's kind of what you've been discussing. I guess I was going to ask you, if somebody does want to reach out to you to talk to you about something you mentioned on the podcast, is LinkedIn a good place to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is perfectly fine. I'm generally active on LinkedIn. So yeah, I would be happy to answer any questions or just if anybody wants to connect.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know we just scratched the surface. I think we could probably talk on this topic for a lot longer, but I know I got to let you get back to your day. You got a lot to do. So I appreciate being on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And that's it for this episode of the show. We'll be back again, different guests, different topic. I always ask for two things. One, if you have a topic that you want me to talk about, hit me up on LinkedIn, let me know. I'll do my best to find somebody to speak to it. And also, if you do find the podcast useful, share it. That's how we've been growing. And I can't thank everyone enough for doing their part in getting the word out about the podcast. So until next time, goodbye. Thank you.